All right, everybody, good morning. It is Victory Monday once again for us Seahawks fans. Pretty good victory as well. And we got plenty to talk about today with regards to that game. But let's look ahead a little bit first because we did get some pretty big news yesterday concerning our game this upcoming week. And we got to get into this a little bit. And I understand that there's some other injury considerations we have to think about. I might make another video later today talking about Seahawks injuries, although quite honestly, we got out of that game pretty clean. But this is pretty monumental. And I guess you could argue that the ship had already sailed because, let's face it, Daniel Jones had no business playing football in the state that he was in anyway, but he has had a torn Achilles officially, according to Pro Football Talk, and is out for the rest of the season. All right, guys, let's take a minute so I can tell you about Sleeper, a one-stop shop for all your sports needs. You can celebrate and chat on sports games in real time with other users. You can get the fastest scores, blazing fast sports news and sports alerts right at your fingertips. And of course, you can use Sleeper to play in fantasy leagues and win real money on picks contests. This is the way sports were meant to be enjoyed together. So download Sleeper today. Use promo code SBN to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. And you can pair that with another promo they have right now where you can get a $20 entry free with no deposit required. So get both of those things going. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states and growing. So check out Sleeper today. Get to it and go have some fun with sports this year. So, honestly, this was kind of predictable given the fact that he was trying to play through whatever it was, a fractured fibula, fractured leg, broken leg, whatever you want to call it. The fact that he was trying to play through that kind of, you could feel the disaster coming, but the disaster has struck. Daniel Jones, torn Achilles, which I guess in the modern medical landscape is actually considered to be better than tearing your ACL, but it's bad. And obviously, he won't play again this year. And, as someone that has always liked and appreciated Daniel Jones and had hoped that he would be good in this league, I'm saddened about this because I thought that his story this year was really, really fun and really, really cool. And it's over now. And maybe he gets paid in the off season, but it's a little less clear where we go now. So just on a personal level, I'm a little bit bummed out because I like Daniel Jones and it was really fun to see him be so successful this season. But as far as being a Seahawks fan goes, just talking about this thing in a more clinical and categorical way, this has a tremendous impact on this upcoming Seattle game. And we are now going to be getting a backup quarterback when we play the Colts, and it may not even be the guy that you're thinking about. We'll talk about that in a second here, but understand that I don't look. Daniel Jones, even with his fractured, I think fibula, I can't remember exactly what it was, but Daniel Jones in the state that he was in, um, I would still take him over the guy we're likely to get this weekend. But I also don't think that Daniel Jones in the state that he was in before he tore the Achilles was going to do that much. So I'm not saying this completely alters the direction of this game, but there's still an impact here. So anyway, moving on from just the Daniel Jones element, if you're wondering, well, who do we get to play next week? It's probably not Anthony Richardson. And there was this tweet from yesterday morning, kind of laying down this story that I think a lot of people forgot about because he wasn't playing anyway. But Anthony Richardson, he has not been cleared for football activities for a couple of months now. Remember, he got hurt in the preseason, lost the starting job battle to Daniel Jones, and then earlier this year, when he was the backup during warm-ups before a game, he had an orbital fracture in his face, and we really haven't seen anything with him since that happened. So, quite honestly, I don't think it's going to be Anthony Richardson either. I think that Anthony Richardson, it would be kind of weird if he suddenly went from not being cleared for football related activities to I'm playing in an actual NFL football game on the road against maybe the best defense in football in less than a week. So, no, I don't think it's going to be Anthony Richardson either. And obviously, look, Anthony Richardson, pretty bad quarterback, maybe even a terrible quarterback, but there is some stuff that he can do athletically that is very rare in this league. He has a cannon arm. He is very fast, very athletic, very agile, and it would have at least thrown a curveball at you. And while he's not good, there are some things he could have done that could have been dangerous. So it's not Anthony Richardson, I don't think. Maybe they activate him, maybe he plays, but that would be probably beckoning disaster as much as the Daniel Jones stuff. The guy we're probably getting is Riley Leonard, who did play for most of the game yesterday. So if you were watching football yesterday, this probably doesn't surprise you terribly, but I heavily suspect Riley Leonard will get his first career NFL start next week when the Seahawks play the Colts. Excuse me. So this is what we're probably going to be looking at here. You might remember Riley Leonard from last year. I talked about him some during the draft. He also made the national title game, lost, but led Notre Dame to the national championship game. And hey, good college career. I liked him. I liked him a little bit more than typical. I still didn't think he should be a high pick or anything like that, but he was very intriguing to me during his time in college. But we're talking about a very young and inexperienced player on the road against maybe the best defense in football. So there's really probably not much to say about that. The best I can say is that the Colts' offensive system is really good. He's got a really good running back he can give the ball to, and they've got a nice setup for him. It's probably a little bit better than what the Vikings had to give Max Brosmer, but it's probably going to be in many ways kind of similar to that. Now, I actually did a brief little scouting report of Riley Leonard last year because he was somebody that intrigued me. So, what I would say about Riley Leonard, if you're wondering about what he is as a player, he is a poor man's Jalen Hurts. That is, I think, the right way to look at him. I think that Riley Leonard is basically Jalen Hurts with a little bit less junk in the trunk and Jalen Hurts without the 9 ball, the 9 route ball. And unfortunately, those two things are kind of a big deal. Now, Riley Leonard, he can use his legs really well. Last year, he ran for over 900 yards and 17 touchdowns for Notre Dame. And you did see that he's not just running with speed, he's not just running away from people. He has, I don't know if you would call it power, but it's kind of like he runs through people in a way that a lot of quarterbacks don't. Like Lamar Jackson, you don't really see him running through people that much, but Jalen Hurts, a little bit more. So Riley Leonard's kind of like that. And before he was at Notre Dame, by the way, he was the starting quarterback for Duke, and he was pretty good there too. So 2 pretty good years in college football. I liked him, but I think the Jalen Hurts comparison lays out some fairly clear limitations. So let's take a look at what I actually wrote here beyond just the raw stats. So yeah, let's start with the pros here. I really like the way he plays football. He's very tough. I remember that the first drive of the game for Notre Dame against Ohio State in the national title game last year, he was dead exhausted by the end of that drive because he had to do so much running and so much power running on that drive. But he willed his team into the end zone. And for a lot of that game, that was the only scoring Notre Dame did. They didn't start scoring again until near the end. But I think that kind of was emblematic of what makes Riley Leonard appealing as a quarterback. He's got tremendous heart. He's very tough. He's a genuine dual threat with mobility and power. Like I said, he is capable of making quick throws on script. He is capable of getting the ball out of his hands fast. and kind of running an offense in the way a pro offense needs to be run. Doesn't turn it over a lot, kind of like Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts, not a big turnover guy. And if you looked at the combine, he did show signs of a workable deep ball that you didn't necessarily see in the games. So there is some reason to believe that he could let it rip a little bit down the field if he needed to, and Notre Dame just didn't really ask him to do that. So there is some good stuff here, but I don't know how much weight he's put on since entering the NFL, but at the combine he was 216 pounds, which is a little bit lighter than Jalen Hurts, and he also probably doesn't have the weight in all the right places. So it's not going to work as well when you're trying to run through NFL defenders. Like, imagine Riley Leonard trying to take on Nick Eamon-Warry in a one-on-one situation. You're probably not going to run through Nick Eamon-Warry if you're Riley Leonard. Not a very advanced passer. The offense that Notre Dame ran was pretty simplified. They ran the ball a lot, let Leonard use his legs a lot, and didn't ask a lot from him as a passer. They tried to keep things simple, one read, get it out, and if the read isn't there, take off and run. His accuracy is very, very suspect outside of the short game. He did have almost a 67% completion last year, but a lot of that was because Notre Dame kept it easy for him. Once he actually has to throw the ball into the intermediate or the deep parts of the field, doesn't seem like he's the same guy. He lacks the ability to throw off script as well. You get him on the move, you get him improvising beyond the confines of the play. It's not very good. And he's not really a high-end reader of defenses. His game is get the ball, hit my back foot, get the ball out to my first read, and that's it. So, pretty simple scouting report here. And look, if he can work on the 9 ball, if he can work on the deep ball, I think that Leonard potentially has a future in the NFL. And I even said that this is a great time for a quarterback like a Riley Leonard to be entering the NFL because Jalen Hurts had just won Super Bowl MVP a couple of weeks, a couple months prior to that draft. So I did say that I do think that there is something here that could work a little bit in the NFL, but it was going to require work. It was going to require him to improve. It was going to require him to change the way he played. And he's a rookie who was looked at as a third-string quarterback before the season started. And I don't know if those improvements have been made. And even if he started on them, you wouldn't think that those changes would show up in a positive way in your first ever NFL start on the road against possibly the best defense in football. So should be another relatively I don't want to say easy win, but it should be a relatively routine win and a relatively routine dominant performance from the Seahawks defense because there's just a world of difference. This isn't like even yesterday where you got to play against the Falcons with Kirk Cousins, and okay, Kirk Cousins is a backup quarterback, but honestly, I think you could make a very compelling and probably even true argument that the difference between Michael Penix and Kirk Cousins is basically nothing, and maybe it is literally nothing because Penix was not playing that well and Cousins looked fairly good. That's not the case here. Daniel Jones was playing like one of the best quarterbacks in the league for most of the season. Yeah, he lost something with the leg injury that he sustained, but I still think he was, even in that state, significantly better than whatever it is you're going to get out of Leonard. So that is who we're playing, and that is my read on him. Intriguing quarterback, but at the end of the day, he kind of becomes a little bit anonymous. The thing that makes him stand out is the fact that he can run with a little bit of power, and he can do some of maybe the Jalen Hurts stuff, but the Jalen Hurts stuff works because as much as Jalen Hurts is a bad passer, he has a great 9 ball. He can throw a great 9 ball route, and also he has the power to actually run through guys in the NFL. Leonard could do it in college. All right. So let me know what you guys think down below. I will see you guys later. Another video coming later, and then more videos after that. You guys know what's coming. You guys know what it's all about. Enjoy your Victory Monday. And yeah, Riley Leonard. So I'm going to say this. Be ready for nobody to give us any credit for beating the Colts. Like, we're not going to get any love because we beat a winning team, because everybody's going to say you got Riley Leonard, and honestly, they have a bit of a point. See you guys later.